Welcome to Love and Abuse, the show about helping you identify poisonous communication and toxic behavior. You deserve to be treated with respect and kindness. That's why it's important that you learn to pinpoint manipulative and controlling behavior so that you keep your power and your sanity. I'm your host, Paul Coliani. Welcome to the show. I am Paul Coliani, like the intro says, and I want to remind you that the information on love and abuse is meant for educational purposes only. Always seek a professional for your mental health and well-being. And today I want to talk about something that won't take me too long. I just want to convey this so that there's an understanding of manipulation and sort of its roots, the roots of manipulation. And this isn't like all-encompassing. This is more likely than not the majority of the roots of manipulation. And what I'm talking about is whenever you want something and you want it really badly, you're more likely to want to manipulate the circumstances to get it. And this is important to know because we know people that manipulate. I mean, you probably know someone that manipulates to get what they want. And the root of manipulation is very selfish. It is a way to get what you want by controlling the circumstances and the people around you to get that, to make it happen. And so if you have control of the people and the circumstances around you, you get what you want and you've successfully manipulated. Once that manipulation has taken place and you get what you want, then you're happy, supposedly. I mean, that's how people who use manipulation think, typically. As long as I can manipulate, I can get what I want. I have a feeling you already know that, but the reason I'm saying this is because when you know someone that manipulates, you have to think in terms that they want something so badly that they don't think they can get it any other way except to control or coerce or figure out a way to deceive. And when they do, and they end up getting what they want, they reinforce inside themselves that manipulation is the best way to do it. And so, I look at this as any of us are capable of doing this, just at a different scale. Like we all have our limitations on how much we'll manipulate, meaning some of us will go farther than others to manipulate. And this depends on your level of empathy and compassion for other people. If you want to get what you want, and you decide that you want to manipulate to get there, the manipulation will either increase or decrease depending on how much you care about the other people. And so that kind of puts you in a hard spot if you're with someone that manipulates you. So you look at them and you wonder, well, how much do they care about me if they're manipulating me? So there's that side of the coin of it for sure. But then there are people that manipulate that they don't base it on whether they care about you or not. They base it on whether they get what they want or not. And this is where it becomes a little bit, I don't want to say trickier, but harder to digest emotionally, because they seem to still care about you, yet they do things that make it seem like they don't care about you. So here you are on the butt end of their manipulation, even though they say they still love you. And so you've got this weird dichotomy going on. It's a cognitive dissonance that you can't figure out, well, if you love me, why are you manipulating me? And they may say something like, well, it's not about you, it's about me. Actually, they probably won't say that. They probably will deny it. But in their head, they probably think that. They want what they want, and they don't want to get rid of what they have, so they want their cake and eat it too. They want the best of both worlds. And so when you get stuck on that side of it, where you are being manipulated by someone who says they care about you, says they love and support you, and even through their behavior shows that they love and support you, yet they still want what they want, so they do what they can to get what they want, you're left confused. You start pulling your hair out, wondering, why are they doing this? So the reason I'm painting this picture for this episode is so that you understand perhaps a little better how manipulation works and forms in the brain, and how anyone can be manipulative, And some people take it to the next level, to extreme levels. And some people seem to be good people and still manipulate. And when you're on the receiving end of that manipulation, it's not fun. It feels hurtful. It is hurtful. I mean, there's nothing not hurtful about that when you are being manipulated. The problem is that you have these caring people, or at least seemingly caring people, that want to manipulate you. And it's going to seem like they didn't really want to manipulate you. They wanted to get what they wanted, but they care about you and they don't want to lose what they have. I mean, I've seen this play over and over again. My girlfriend's ex, he wanted what he wanted. He wanted extramarital activity. He wanted to be out into the world doing his own thing, and he still wanted his marriage, and he was terribly upset when his marriage ended. But he couldn't put the two together, that he was hurting her while getting what he wanted. And he didn't think he was wrong. He didn't even think he was doing anything wrong, which is even more confusing. So this is where you have a choice to stay with someone who doesn't think they're doing anything wrong, or maybe knows they're doing something that they know you don't like, but continues to do it anyway because they want it so bad, whatever that outcome is, whether it's infidelity if you're in a romantic relationship with them, or if they just want to buy a new TV on the family credit card and you don't want them to, yet they do it anyway because they want it. It overrides what you want. It overrides their care about how you feel. So I look at these as certain levels of empathy and compassion, and how desires can be higher than those levels of empathy and compassion. And so these bring up the questions for yourself and in your life. Do I want to stay with someone who has desires that outweigh their compassion and empathy? If they have compassion and empathy at all. I assume most people do. There's always something you can find that someone feels empathetic about or compassionate about. Almost always. I should say almost always, because there are certifiable diagnoses that talk about full-blown narcissism, antisocial personality, and other disorders that can certainly take away empathy, or so they say they're born without empathy, or the empathy muscle doesn't get flexed when they're growing up because of their upbringing or something. So the point is, do you stay with someone, or do you relate to someone or hang around someone whose desires override their empathy and compassion for you or others? And that's a big question, because if you're seeing that in your relationship, this is where you need to remember that no matter how much someone loves you, at least from what they say and how they define love, no matter how much they seem to care about you, if their desires to do things that you don't approve of or that are outside the values and the boundaries of the relationship is stronger than their compassion and their caring and their love and support for you, you're going to end up unhappy. You're going to end up dysfunctional. You're going to end up in a toxic relationship. And because it's so toxic, you're going to be pulling your hair out wondering why they're acting as they are when they seem to be so caring about you. And this is the up and down of crazy making, of gaslighting, and the whole plethora of components of emotional abuse, is that you're with someone who seems to care about you, but their selfish desires override their caring about you. And, somebody might say, well, I have both. I have the desire to do these things that I want, and I also have the desire to keep this person in my life or keep them happy, not see them upset. But I want both. And so this is where values and priorities come in. If you're in a relationship with anyone, either it's platonic, romantic, or family, no matter who you're in a relationship with, it's important to be clear about what the values and the boundaries of that relationship are. And not only be clear about it, but have an agreement that you both follow them. You both abide within the terms or the limitations of those values and boundaries. And that's just it. People who want to manipulate to get what they want, they override the limitations. They go past them. And when they do that, they are more in selfish mode. They are more likely to do whatever it takes to get what they want. And once they get what they want, then it'll seem like they go back within the limitations again. And so we have to look at this and be really careful not to pull our hair out if we're in this type of situation, because if somebody's operating at that level, if somebody's operating at the level of, I value my desires more than I value your values or the values of the relationship, then the person on the other end of that will end up driving themselves crazy trying to figure out their behavior. And so being aware that this is something that, like I said in the beginning, we can all do. And it's just a matter of what we value more. Because you may value something that they don't value, or you may value something that they absolutely don't want you to do or have or say, and you want to, but you don't, because you also realize that if you do it, then the relationship can suffer or it can turn toxic. There are times in my life when I was in a relationship and I would see someone else that I was attracted to. But I valued the relationship. I valued my partner. I valued it so much that I would never want to risk it or lose it. So I definitely didn't pursue those avenues, but I wanted to. I'll admit it. There were times where I saw someone, I was like, wow, or talked to someone and got to know them so well or worked with them. It was just a good feeling being around them. But because I was able to access compassion and empathy and remember that I have something great already, then, and I'm not trying to pat myself on the back here, I'm just saying that there are people maybe like yourself that might see something that looks better, it feels better, you feel better being around that person or that thing, yet you still know the boundaries of the relationship, so you don't pursue it. And when you do that, it doesn't necessarily seem like a sacrifice or a compromise. It seems more like an appreciation for what you have. And I think that's a good feeling to have when you think about, wow, I could have this other thing in my life, but I appreciate what I have. And that overrides any desires, the appreciation for what you have. What those who manipulate or control, what they tend to do is mix appreciation for what they have or completely deny the appreciation because they don't feel it anymore, they haven't felt it in a while or whatever, and then try to control circumstances or deceive or manipulate to get what they want. And when they do get what they want, then they come to a place of appreciation for what they have because they satisfied that need. It's almost like an addiction for some people. It's almost like they want it so bad that unless they have it, they can't enjoy what they have. So this is more of a theoretical thought on my part, not necessarily a truth. It could be. I mean, this absolutely could be true, but I look at someone who manipulates to get what they want, overriding their own compassion and their caring for you, or if you've done this with somebody else, you override and prioritize what is important about the relationship, and you go for some sort of selfish desire instead. But until you close that loop of that desire, it's almost overriding anything that you have going on in your life. It's like being obsessed about something that you can't have until you have it, and then the closure comes. Oh, I finally had it, and it was either great or it was a big disappointment, but now I'm thinking about what I could potentially lose. And that's when we come back, and this is where the up and down cycle repeats itself, is that the selfish desire is fulfilled, and then there's a realization and appreciation for what the person has. And so that doesn't work with everyone. This is kind of a singular circumstance I'm referring to. There are some people that are selfish. They know they are. There are some people that are manipulative. They don't care, and they'll do what they want and get what they want. And they still want what they have in their life today, whether that's a marriage or material items or whatever it is. The manipulation happens because they're trying to fulfill that selfish desire, which is like an addiction. Again, theoretical. But I imagine there's a lot of truth to that, because once that desire is fulfilled, then they're back to, quote, normal. And when you get them back, you feel good again. Like, oh, good, they're back. Maybe the relationship will be normal from this point on because they finally took care of what they wanted. They finally got what they wanted, and now they're back here, meaning they probably realized that what they have is great. But if the cycle repeats itself and they do it again, it doesn't stop. It can't for them. Again, theoretical, but I think it's okay to base a lot of your decisions on this theory that these people that manipulate over and over again, and they know it upsets you, but they can't stop. I think it's good to base your decisions on the theory that they won't ever stop. Because if you do that, then you are taking care of yourself and you're not setting yourself up for disappointment over and over again. And so let me bring this back to how you can also be the manipulator. I mean, if you aren't already resonating with this, let's just say that you are trying hard to be good and honest and caring toward the people that you love in your life. You can also be the manipulator or a manipulative person. And how we do that is think of something that you really want. And I asked this of my girlfriend the other day. I said, what if your son ended up in jail and he made a mistake and he realizes it, and you had to get a lawyer, and the lawyer told you, hey, look, we can get him out of jail, but we have to pull these strings. It's not exactly legal, but it's not illegal. There's that fine line, or maybe it is illegal. But if she wants her son out of jail badly enough, is she willing to pull some strings to make that happen? Is she willing to manipulate? Now, what you might think she said is, absolutely, I want to get my son out of jail. But she actually said, no, he needs to rot there for a while. But she loves her son. It's not that she doesn't love her son. She just wants him to learn his lesson. And of course, after a few days, I'm sure she'd want him out of jail because she loves her son. She wants to get him out. But what she did end up saying is, yeah, I'd probably go the distance. I'd probably do whatever I could to help get him out, to help him be free of that because he's my son, because I love him. And so we may look at that as maybe a more ethical manipulation. But if you break it down into something that you really want to happen, you can probably look at many things in your life that you really want to happen. And even if that's your own relationship, let's just say that you're in a romantic relationship and you really want your partner to appreciate you or get you a gift or come home not angry for once or not yell at you one night. You might manipulate the circumstances so that your partner doesn't do something that you don't want them to do, or does do something that you want them to do. You might manipulate. This often happens. I've seen this over and over again in emotionally abusive relationships where the person that's on the receiving end of most of the emotional abuse, or all of it, will have to resort to tactics that they don't necessarily want to because they are not that type of person inside. Yet in order to get their needs met, they might think they have to, and they figure out a way to manipulate so they get their needs met. And that need might just be the other person saying, I love you, or not yelling, something simple, something that should be in every relationship. Yet the victim of emotional abuse or control or manipulation feels like they have to do the same thing back in order to get their needs met. And the truth is, often that's correct, unfortunately, because the other person, if they don't change, how are you going to make the situation change? It feels like the only thing you can do is manipulate. That's not a healthy way to do it. I'm not saying it is. I'm just saying that's what happens often, is that we can't get our needs met, so we find a way to manipulate. And the reason I wanted you to try that on is because if you take your desire for something or someone to change, and you multiply that by 10 or 100, or you take your desire of wanting something really bad, and you multiply that by 100, then you might have a taste of what the other person feels. And that's not to give you empathy about their situation. That's to help you evaluate what their line of thinking may be, so that you don't fall into the trap of hoping they'll do the right thing. I don't want you to fall into a trap of waiting and hoping that another person is suddenly going to do a different thing, especially when they have a desire 100 times stronger than you can probably imagine that they will probably fulfill anyway. I mean, this only pertains to certain people that may or may not exist in your life, or maybe it pertains to you. I'm just giving you this perspective to help you understand where manipulation may originate and why it may be so prevalent or strong in other people, and how understanding manipulation in yourself and why you might do it can help you understand why somebody else might do it. Not that it's an excuse for anyone, but just an understanding of the behavior. And I think when you can label behavior, understand behavior, or at least a little bit more, figure out the origin of behavior, then you are way ahead. You are way ahead in your own life, in your own personal growth and development, so that you can understand that you're not the reason they're trying to manipulate, but you are in the equation of manipulation so that they can get what they want. Because again, I've talked to and seen too many people that were definitely emotionally abusive, but they also cared. And so this is why the confusion sets in. If you care so much, why are you doing this? And you'll get answers left and right, and it won't make any sense. So again, you have to go back inward and figure out, well, what do I want for myself? If I know this person is always going to choose their own desires and their own selfish needs over mine, or at least over the boundaries of the relationship, do I want that in my life? It's important to consider these questions because sometimes we end up hoping something will change that never will, that keeps us in a situation that never improves. I just don't want that for you. I mean, that doesn't mean you should have a gloom outlook or pessimistic outlook. I'm just trying to bring in a dose of reality, a dose of truth that can help you make decisions, whether you want to keep someone in your life or not, whether you want to change your own behaviors or not. This is all just food for thought. Share this with others that might benefit. Love and Abuse is the official podcast of the MEAN Workbook, an assessment and healing guide for difficult relationships. The workbook contains a 200-point checklist to help you not only pinpoint the exact behaviors causing the difficulties in your relationship, but it will also clearly reveal to you why you leave so many interactions feeling bad. The workbook is perfect for you if you need proof that you're not losing your mind or just need conclusive information to help you make the next best relationship decisions for both of you. You can also use the workbook on yourself to understand your own behaviors and how they affect those you love. It's available for download at loveandabuse.com. Not all emotionally abusive relationships have to end. Some can heal and grow from the challenges and some can't. It takes both people willing to be honest and work on themselves, knowing that they play a role in what might be happening. If you are the only one working on the relationship, then you probably already feel alone. But know that this show exists to remind you that you are not alone and you're not going crazy. You deserve to be treated with respect and kindness. You deserve honesty and sincerity. You deserve to be treated as worthy and significant. Because you are. We'll talk again soon.